Most business owners work really hard. You work too hard and you still feel stuck. So I'm here to help you build a stronger team and scale with more ease. I want you to grow the business, but without sacrificing your life. And most of the people that I encounter have either made a decision to sacrifice their life or to sacrifice the business. I'm going to keep the business small and not follow my true
Okay.
ambition because I want to preserve my family, my marriage, whatever. Or I'm going to sacrifice that and grow the thing. And I think it's a false choice. I think it's unnecessary to do that.
Welcome to the Haggai podcast. Buckle up. This episode is brought to you by Cards Biz, a business card too good to give away.
So this is cards. This is what we make in Cards Biz. This is the black Amex of business card, made out of metal, glass polymer, engraved in real gold or silver. And basically you don't give this away. You basically tap somebody's phone and the information is shared. So like you make the best impression in every meeting.
This episode is brought to you by Better Weight for Life, transformational weight loss aid, led by U.S. board certified physicians, providing access to GLP-1 medications like Wegovy and Zepbound that are proven to help you lose weight and keep it off.
Hello, Bill.
Hello, Haggai.
So I have a confession to make. So it's more like an insight I want to share with you. So when I was watching your stuff, I said, this guy has a DJ voice. He has a DJ voice. And then when I went and read your bio, it says a former DJ and radio executive. So yes, it is true.
Yes,
so
for sure.
I have to ask, but before we jump into the business side, what's up with that? What's up with your radio career? How did that happen?
It was sort of two parts. I was interested in around music like a lot of young people were. And
we're talking 5 years ago when we were young, like around 5 years ago. Yeah.
It's about 5 years ago. And anyway, so when was it? Probably, in the middle 80s, right? And I was at a radio station. We had a popular radio station in the town I was living in Las Vegas. And late one night, and one of the DJs who was supposed to come on and take the next show didn't show up. And I think I was there with the guy who was doing the reggae show. Anyway, so the guy doesn't show up, and the program manager is a friend, and he gets on the phone. He's like, Bill. He always sounded like he was kind of sleeping. And like, Bill, look, the guy's not coming. You know how to do the stuff. You know the music. You just do the show. Like, could you do the show, man? And I was really nervous. I'm like, what, you mean like right now? Like go on? And he's like, yeah, he's not there. It's 2 a.m. Nobody's listening. Just fucking play whatever you want, man. He's like, do your best job, play our kind of music, and Stan will show you what to do. And I think it was Stan. And so the guy gave me like a quick review of what I had just been observing other people do. And he's like, okay, all right. And he stayed for like 5 minutes. He's like, I really got to go. And so then I did my first show, like, I don't know, some midweek time from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Wow.
And I was working in the grocery store, in the supermarket overnight as his other job. And he calls me in the morning. He's like, hey, Bill, that was pretty good, man. You did a good job with the show. I'm going to fire that guy and you could have that show. Would you like to do the show? And so I said, sure, I'll come back. That was fun. And he's like, okay, we'll talk tomorrow. And then of course it was already tomorrow. And, so then I had a show, by accident. I'm on the air, and then I ran the show for a little while, and I did my music, and then at first it was 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., and then I got a better time slot, and then I was doing much different times and better times, but always in the evening or overnight. So I didn't do 2 to 6 for that long, but it was fun. And then I started doing dances and nightclubs and things like that. We might get hired to do the dance for the college or do a dance at a high school or some other group, and then we would go do Friday night or some Sunday night at different nightclubs around Las Vegas. And we had a name, and we would sell and create cross promotions. We would do events and things like that. And I got more interested in that sort of business side of arranging a sponsor and a show and thing like that. And it's embarrassing now to go back and hear the recordings because my voice is very young and I'm higher note than like I have the years of damage and it's much deeper voice today. And some of my like
Like
humor,
wine,
and
it matured and improved like wine.
it's improved and yes, become more resonant with
Yeah.
age. Anyway, so it's funny and then years later, after some different twists and turns in my career, I had an opportunity to be an executive and a partner in a group of radio stations. We had 14 radio stations around the US, almost none of which there's very little music on them in this time. It was really all more about catering to different ethnic groups in the United States with different languages. So mostly we would buy radio stations and make them like Vietnamese or Korean or Japanese or different Asian languages.
So I'm jumping ahead because so we're traveling to the future. So from a DJ career, you had like 38 years of a professional career, 19 of them
Yeah.
in coaching. And
Yeah.
also between two companies inside that career, two companies that crossed the $500 million in revenues. So how did that happen?
Well, so that's maybe a lot of muddled things that sound better than they are there.
It
But
always is. It always is, right?
Than they really were. So I worked in a range of things. I had radio. I had some different technology companies. I had sales jobs, marketing jobs as well early in the career. And then I started one division for another company, and then I took that over 550 million before I was 30. And that was a real eye-opening experience because I had very like minimal equity in that business, a
Yeah.
small number of shares. And I didn't make that much money on the 550 million. So then I went off to start my own first business after that experience. And that was very humbling. You know, I came out of that job thinking I have all these friends and they like me and I have all this connection. And people were my friends because I represented a big company with a lot of money. And people were my friends because I had a big budget, because I impacted thousands of people's jobs. But I didn't actually, they weren't like my friends, like me. And I wasn't the warmest guy. In fact, I was, I had a lot, I probably had the same ego I have today, but I didn't recognize it, right? Like I thought, I don't have an ego. I'm just a cool guy, right? And now oh yeah, I have an ego. I like certain things. So when I came out, I started that first company. It was really hard
What
because
was the
people
company? What was the company?
I was trying to do marketing consulting, marketing research work in cross-cultural, multilingual stuff. And there's a lot of people that do that kind of work, if you're trying in the United States, we have a very dominant Anglo culture. And then we have secondary markets that are Spanish speaking or that speak different Asian languages and so on. And they live in particular communities. And that's, risen over time. And then, of course, there's going out to other countries as well. So like, maybe we have a Spanish speaking thing here, but we also do work in Mexico or Colombia or wherever. So that is the kind of work that I tried to do because I had some expertise in that. And I had grown up speaking total 4 different languages, 3 English plus 3. And so I felt like I belonged there as a super white face guy, right, from the United States. But it was really hard. It was really humbling. Like basic things in those days, like having a physical office and an address, having a fax machine, a printer, those kinds of things mattered a lot more. And needing more FaceTime with people than today. Today, creating a virtual business and working off your laptop in Bali or somewhere is a lot easier to do than it used to be. But anyway, so that was my first business. Then I got into the radio business a little while later, and they had been one of my clients, and they essentially hired me, like encouraged me to come over with some money and gave me some shares in the company. And then from there, I started an internet business and then a second internet business, 2 different. One was like started as a creative agency and then became a development shop. And then the other one was a SaaS business. And then we shut all those down and, they had some success. They raised some money for one of them. But then in 2002, we put them on hold and never started them again. I worked with my wife's company, the jewelry business, for the next,
What's the jewelry business?
Her jewelry company is called Lori Bond Design. It's a fashion jewelry brand. And And then I came in to help that because we had sort of new problems in 2002, right? 2002 is just post the dot-com bust
Yeah.
that changed the funding in my companies, and then also, all of our culture and security and that kind of thing around the world post September 11. Um, and then that ended up like lasting for 11 years. And then in 2013, I had for a few years I've been dabbling in coaching work, like on the side in the evenings, and leading workshops and teaching classes and things like that as a side hustle. And then in 2013 I went full-time coaching. So that's been a few years now.
So it sounds to me you're almost as bad as me in terms of doing multiple things and jumping between different industries over the years.
Yeah.
So on one hand, I can relate. On another hand, I know how this is maybe off-putting to a lot of people when they hear that somebody goes through so many off-putting, weird kind of thing. So how do
weird.
you explain this? Like, how do you explain the many things?
There's something that connects all the things, like how I would do that and why I would do each of the things. Like there's some earlier experience or some aspect of something
Yeah.
that connects it. And
what is that
create
connection? What is that connection?
well, like, so I'm a coach today,
Yeah.
right? And that means that I do one-on-one coaching. It means that I do a lot of teaching and workshopping, right? But years ago, I started doing that because my dad was a teacher. And because he was a teacher, or maybe because it's in my blood, in my brain, when I was about 10 years old, I remember complaining to my dad about one of my teachers and that I thought she made everything boring and wasn't very good. And he said, well, why don't you volunteer to teach a class then if you know how it should be done?
Yeah.
And I said, oh, that's a great idea. He's like, okay, and I'll teach you how to teach. And so I volunteered. The teacher said, sure. I don't know what she thought, and then my dad said, okay, so what's the lesson that you want to teach? And what's the structure? What do you think would make it more interesting? And I remember really a lot of it really distinctly, but this thought that it could be a better experience. And so in this case, whatever the lesson was, I don't remember now, but I used a comic book, and I don't even remember which comic book. I could make it up and embellish the story, but I used a comic book to teach a lesson on the topic that our class needed to learn at about the age of 10, approximately. And it was not bad. The kids were like, that was great. And then I didn't do much with that, but that early seed, right?
Yeah.
So then that connects. That's the kind of thread I'm talking about, like an experience that made an impression that we forget about, right? And I think there are many things, like across my shoulder over in the corner of the room is a DJ mixing table, right? Sometimes, like, I'll do some mixes because it's fun and amuses me, not for anything else. You heard as I came on, I'm playing some music for myself, and I'll play music in the office. I have my own theme song for my podcast, right? So that comes through underneath my desk that I rest my feet on most of the time, and I don't take out very often, is a skateboard. So I still have the skateboard all the time. I stand on it, I balance on it in the day while I'm working and that kind of thing. And every now and then I don't ride the skateboard much. I do surf, and I do a new kind of surfing called wing foil surfing. So, all these things connect, but for a long time, I didn't skateboard. And for a long time, I didn't surf. And then one day I went, wait a minute, that's crazy. I should get a surfboard again. I should get a skateboard again. Or I should do these things. I'm 60 now, and I'm a grandfather, but I'm not dead yet, so.
Like, you look very alive, I can assure you. You look very alive. Unless this is deep fake AI and this is really good implementation.
I have a good camera, good lights,
Yeah.
and a good camera angle. Right. So it's flattering. There's other angles.
half a battle, babe. So, so you have this experience as an entrepreneur. And again, it sounds like it was a mix of good, bad, exciting, frustrating.
Oh, yeah. Like the two companies, right? The two companies that I had that shut down in 2002, right? One of those was an early version of like DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub.
Yeah.
We already had a working thing back in 2001. Yeah, that was a costly thing to shut that down and never go back to. Like, I could have made a lot of money had I stayed with that, right? Or maybe it was just too soon.
Yeah, it's like I remember for many years. Do you remember what was the name of this company? The first online supermarket that raised a lot of money.
Well, there was
Webvan?
there was Peapod, and then there was Webvan after
Webvan.
that. And I had some Webvan stock, and we ordered from Webvan. I still have Webvan bins that they
Yeah.
left at the house, plastic things that they, yeah.
So that's it's an interesting in this case because this is my association. For years afterwards, it was like this classic case, like it would teach like a case study of failure, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
go a few years in the future, and it makes perfect sense, right? It's just like nobody's
You mean
looking.
why they failed?
No, like selling groceries online, right?
Right. Yeah, the timing, the
timing.
formula's
Yeah.
wrong. It's sometimes too early, or people are missing something about it. A lot of times, like, for a while, the basic business fundamentals, the economics of, you could lose money while you're growing a business, but if the gross margin
Yeah.
is wrong, you're effed. There's no way to make it back in volume. If the
Yes.
growth, like, you could stop your burn on your marketing spend and things like that and your development cost. But if the gross margin of the core business isn't there, why? Why bother? Like,
Yeah.
there's no point. And Webvan and a lot of companies couldn't figure out how to, like, make the core thing. Like, if you wanted to make $1 online, you just spend 10.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Amazing.
Right.
So Bill, let's what I'm interested to get to, and for people to understand, is how did you translate your hands-on entrepreneurial experience, your life experience, to what you do today,
Yeah.
and
Well,
and allow me to push you as much as possible, kind of things like, okay, I come for you. I'm an entrepreneur. I lost all my hair in my businesses, right? It's all
Yeah.
gone. Like, it's good. A
It
good
is good.
camera angle. You have it
Yeah.
made.
Yeah.
No cameras are going to save me in this
Helping
case.
you.
Nothing's going to help me. That's all right. So, like, okay, what do you do? How do you start an engagement with a schmuck like myself?
So I start with this premise. Most business owners work really hard. You work too hard and you still feel stuck. And so I'm here to help you build a stronger team and scale with more ease, right? And I want you to grow the business, but without sacrificing your life. And most of the people that I encounter have either made a decision to sacrifice their life or to sacrifice the business. So I'm going to keep the business small and not follow my true ambition because I want to preserve my family, my marriage, whatever. Or I'm going to sacrifice that and grow the thing. And I think it's a false choice. I think it's unnecessary to do that. So there's a few things that make a difference, but that first one I think is a fundamental myth, the hustle myth.
So is that true? Okay, because I hear that, and my first kind of reaction to that is this true to every state in the business, right? Because, like, is that a true statement when I'm just starting out with an idea? Can I not work hard when I'm just starting out? Or does this become true when, I don't know, like I have product market fit, I have something, I have revenue, I have like you're smiling. I see you're smiling at this. So like, but I have something, and then what got me there is not what's getting, take me forward, and I'm just getting in my way.
Yeah. Well, consider this. There are for sure times that you're going to work hard, and there are crises. Then there's always working hard and then making a false choice of choosing one over the other. But consider a couple things. One of them is that take a business that is, I don't know, 1,000 times bigger than yours, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how big your business is, but there are businesses that are 1,000 times bigger, and it's run by a CEO in the vast majority of cases, right? How many more hours in the day does that CEO have than you?
Only 36 hours a day. That's it. And that's it.
And are they 1,000 times smarter than you? Are they 1,000 times more energetic than you? Are they do they have 1,000 times worse marriage and family life? No, that's total BS. So you could run a business 1,000 times bigger than the one you do today, and you would do it with the same number of hours. There's a fundamental shift in the way you work that makes a difference. And there are many examples of good and bad CEOs at every step of the way. Like, I have many examples of people who made bad choices and cost themselves and their companies something. So the obvious costs that people have, right? I was coaching a SaaS CEO, first time CEO. They had a background in finance investment and that kind of thing. They went and bought a company through a search fund, and they proceeded to try to sleep 2 to 3 hours a night and work and often sleep in the office and do like that, right? And it cost them their marriage, their family. So the marriage failed. The family's now divided. They're a part-time dad. Their fitness declined. They got fatter. And all the fun things they used to do and the friends they used to hang out with are gone. So the joy is gone, right? Those are all really obvious costs, right? For this guy. And I have countless examples of things like this. I wish that I could intervene in all of them. And ultimately, this guy's company's vision failed. He failed as a CEO. And I was his coach, right? I could say he wasn't really taking the coaching, but I said, stop doing that. Get a full night's sleep. Spend time with your family. Big no. You can't force somebody to do a thing like that. So at some point, you stop working with it. But here's the cost on the other side, right? His team was super suppressed. They were afraid to take action. He was meddling in all their business. Even if he didn't know their functional area, he was getting in their business. So the people are suppressed. They were losing the best people, right? And he was the bottleneck on how fast they could get things done. And his strategy was compromised, right? Because he's totally tunnel vision in with the company, right? One example, the obvious costs and then the less obvious costs. So we think that if we just work really hard on our business, and it's just going to be for a little while, but then it goes on for years, right? And sometimes decades. And we think, okay, we'll do that. Then there's a miss there. Or we say, I'll just let my company be small and I'll let my people be small and I'll have a great quality of life. I'll spend time with my wife and kids or husband and kids, as the case may be. And it's good. But you don't have to make that choice. There's a different path to the whole thing, right?
So I can relate, because in one of my previous companies, there was a multi-year period. I was in that situation, not the guy that you're describing, right? Not meddling in the minute details of every team. I think even at my extreme, I got the feedback from my team that I'm enabling, growing, and people stayed for years. But not sleeping a lot, running, constantly doing it, taking a lot of other aspects of my life and minimizing them, right?
Yeah.
The social, the health, and all those things. So I believe you, right? I believe you. Okay. It's those are not spirits in the wind. Those are not boogeymen to scare kids.
Oh,
but how do you know you have a problem? First of all, right? Because going back, I know maybe you don't need to know, right? Maybe you can fake it.
I think that most of us know we have a problem. I have a CEO right now that I've been coaching for a couple of years. We will hire 1,000 new employees this year. We hired about 1,000 new employees last year. This guy he appears to have a great relationship, a great family life, friends, hobbies, fitness. His business is growing remarkably. It's now thousands of people. And seems to be doing it right? But how is he as a leader? So he sets big goals, really big goals for the company and the team and like that. He hires intense, high quality people. And if they're not able or willing to step up, he lets them go. If the people fail, if they stumble, if they fail to deliver, he pushes them, not arbitrarily, gimme, like a greedy guy, but come on, man, you got this. I think you're awesome. Step up. And so he's very demanding. And when I think about their team as a whole, I work with a big range of leaders in this company, and when I come together with them, there's no nonsense. They get to work. And if they're not interested in that game, all the silly posturing and psychological games, sometimes there's not a lot of that. They just, okay, that's the plan. All right, let's go. We're on board. There's a big goal. There's a vision for the future. I know my part of it. We're working together. Not a lot of nonsense. Then we go have a few drinks or whatever. Then I go home to my family. Everybody works hard, intensely. They are on task. They're not pretending to be someone they're not. And then they get off. It's in some ways, it's really simple, right? There is another way to doing it. And there are many examples of a mix of things, right? There's also people who become CEOs of very big companies and then they sort of self-destruct, right?
What do you mean by self-destruct?
Well, then and there so the well, here's a couple examples, right? Early in his career, Steve Jobs was a guy who pushed on things, who was passionate about
Yeah.
things, but he had a terrible family and personal life. Terrible, right? And then through some growing up, through some epiphany, he got a lot better and restored his relationship with his daughter and became a more balanced human. But his company also got better too, right? The strategy and the clarity with the second incarnation of Steve Jobs at Apple was dramatically better. The focus, the discipline. He's still very demanding. And I
Yeah.
have several friends and have had several people who worked with him on the show, and they're like, yeah, he pushed. He was intense, but he was never like pushing to be a jerk. He was pushing because he believed you were capable. We were capable of more, right? And that's a different kind of pushing.
So I realized I have a.
Take the case that maybe you have a problem, right?
Okay.
And that you're thinking about certain costs, but you're not thinking about all the costs. So maybe you're thinking about your personal costs. And then what decision did you make? Did you go all in on your company and
Mhm.
sacrifice your family and your personal life? Or are you preserving your family and personal life, but compromising on your true ambition?
Or doing
Right? What is it?
or doing both at the same time.
And why do you do what you do?
Yeah.
Right? Like there are lots of reasons that we do that. Like maybe we don't trust anybody else.
Mhm.
We think only I can do it. Only I alone can save this company, country, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? Or you're terrified of failure. It's your first time as a CEO. Or maybe you've never wanted anything before and you're finally winning and you're so worried about it going. Or maybe you've got a out of control ego and you're the hero and everybody else is, a fool, a minion. Or maybe you just have a bad habit. Like you founded the company, you worked a certain way, you managed a certain way, and you've just like, it's just, there you go. You're the founder and your hands are in everything, right? You haven't learned to step back, or you're so busy. You keep telling yourself week after week and year after year, after these next few weeks, this quarter, this year, I'll be fine. I'll settle down, right? And we tell ourselves that like for the rest
Yeah.
of our life. So you're just too busy to delegate. But we get to this thing of overworking and we say, I'm really busy right now, like it's a badge of honor,
Yeah.
but it isn't. It's a sign that you haven't really built a great team.
So how do you help them? Like, what do you actually do? Because I know, and I say this because a lot of people say consultants, coaches, like, what do they actually do? So,
What the hell do you actually do,
yeah,
right?
what do they
So
have to actually do? Yeah.
almost always, and every case is a little bit different, but the first thing I almost always do is bring clarity to the big goal, the big, hairy, audacious goal and the vision. So we work on the strategy at first. And maybe you have some ambition, or maybe you have a little bit of a compromise but ambition, but we try to like take the lid off it and then make it really clear and specific. And the clarity, like as a coach, being outside your world, it's a lot easier to help you get clear about it than it is for you to do for yourself, right? They say it's really hard to read the label from inside the jar, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're in the world, you can't sometimes see it. So just being a coach outside the world, seeing a lot of companies, getting your clarity and helping level up your vision a little bit, not too hard to do. So we get that done first. Then we start to put in a culture rooted in values, build accountability, clear accountability, who owns what. We start to teach you coaching skills and teach your team so that we're coaching coaches, like we're leveling up that thing. We're not, people are leveling up in their capacities. And we put in an execution framework. So the habits, great weekly meetings, daily huddles, annual planning, quarterly plans, strategy work. There's a regular rhythm of things we put in. We put in dashboards and metrics and scorecards and things like that. That's all like foundational. It's not like fancy, gimmicky, like there's lots of versions of these things. They're all fine if you use them well, if you don't abuse them. And maybe the thing that I am really interested in is I encourage you to get a life. And so
Get a life.
what is it that you love? Get a life. Yeah. What is it that you love to do that you forgot, that you've put aside for a while? For a while, I used to fly airplanes. For a while, I would go sailing. For a while, I would go surfing. Like I have lots and maybe more interest than lots of people, but I'm like, I need all those things in my life, right? Tomorrow, I'll be skiing up in the mountains. I'll get to go skiing twice this week, and I'm looking at the weather improving, and I'm getting out my surfing gear, and it's so you should have all those things. And in fact, sometimes I worked on vision recently with a new client, and he did some advanced work, and we did some visioning work, and then we got on the ski lift, and he told me his vision as we rode up the ski lift. At the top, I gave him a little bit of feedback, and we skied down. He thought about what I said, and we got on again. He told me again, and we did that like 6 or 8 times, and he kept revising his vision till he felt good about it, till he could say it. And the last time I put on my phone, we recorded it, we created a transcript, we put it in Chat GPT, we cleaned it up a little bit, we created some slides for it. Now he had a vision to share with his company, and we did some skiing, right?
Win-win.
Win-win. Yeah,
Win-win.
and well, think about like outdoors and movement and things like that make a difference. I regularly take CEOs visiting or otherwise out sailing in San Francisco, and we will go sailing around, put them in a difficult and new uncomfortable experience, and then that can bring up interesting things, and we're moving and we feel the air and the waves and the all that stuff is happening. In January, I took a group of our small company CEOs, and everybody got to surf for the first time. We were in San Diego for our annual strategy meeting, and we took everybody surfing. Everybody got to stand up, at least a couple times on their board. And then another time we brought a dance person, and we did dance with everybody. We got people moving, and then we talked about strategy and what we're like. So mixing modalities with things like that, helping people to get a life, remember what they love. Think about like when I do vision for the companies, I talk not just about where the company's going to go and what it's going to look like, but what does your life look like? Where do you live? When do you get up in the morning? When do you go to bed? How do you spend your evening? How do you spend the weekend? Right? We think about the business holistically with a fast, big, growing business that fulfills your ambition, but also a great life for you. And that gives you perspective and health and stress management and power for all the things, the inevitable pain.
Oh, what has surprised you the most doing this? Like you've been doing this for 19 years. Like I'm assuming, I don't know if you've seen
Well, for 13 years full time
full time
as a
okay.
coach.
So, but I'm assuming you've seen a lot. Maybe I don't know if you've seen everything, but you've seen a lot. So like what was like the most surprising thing that you kind of discovered, or maybe the person you were coaching discovered during this process?
So I see a lot of things that are recurring, right? The same, like different echoes of recurring types of people and behaviors and things like that. I think the most surprising thing to me is that nothing's ever handled. We're going along and you think like, okay, this is on that. And then boom, like some event happens or a life or like just nothing's ever handled. And you get to the next level and then some big new thing happens and like, oh my God, there we are again, right? You think that you'll just get something done and figure it out and remember it forever and it'll be fine. And it's just not like that. So, and if that's the case, then you better enjoy what you do. You better find a way to love it. Like, if you wanted to create a big fitness goal and do something like, okay, I'm going to run a marathon.
Yeah.
And if all you fixate on is finishing the marathon, right, it's not going to be a lot of fun. But if along the way to doing your first marathon, you learn to love running, you learn to appreciate being out in the morning, moving and seeing and sensing the air and like all that kind of thing. And along the way, you learn the feel of your body and to appreciate the pain in your shins or your knees a little bit, like feeling alive, like that kind of thing, then something interesting happens, right? So I think embracing that, that like life keeps lifing and
Life
nothing's
keeps on
ever
lifing.
handled. Life keeps on lifing and nothing's ever handled. And here we are, and there's another day. And what a magical thing each and every day. Look, I woke up today. That's a miracle. I had this amazing, wild, crazy dream, like some action movie, not terrifying, but in a good, fun, lighthearted way, and I had a great cup of coffee in I was with family over the weekend and now I'm talking to you and I'm getting a bunch of things ready. And then I'm going to be with one of my teams this week. And then I'll finish the week back and we'll have a Friday night dinner with the family here as people gather back around as I come back down from the mountains. And like, that's life,
Did you have somebody that went through the process, had the epiphany that he hates what they're doing or he doesn't love what they're doing?
No, all the time.
And they
Yes, a
and what
hundred
and what have
percent.
they done? Did they close the business?
Yeah.
Did they change?
So, yeah, I usually sell it. And I had one a little bit more. It's actually been a couple of years now, but I had a guy, and we were going through like the vision and the roles, the different functional roles in the company, and who should be doing what, who's doing what now, and where do we want to be in the future. And he's like, you know what? I don't want really any of these jobs. I'm like, oh, that's really brilliant. I just want to be the owner of the company.
Yeah.
I'm like, brilliant. He had one job he would hold on to a little bit longer. I'm like, great, let's grow it and sell it. And so we grew it. He missed the biggest opportunity to sell it, but eventually he sold it and he got some money for it. He was happy. But yeah, grow it and sell it. And I think probably the biggest thing is start thinking about exiting your company soon, right? Start a company, then do another
As
one.
in selling it or exiting, putting yourself out of it?
Either way, well, if you want to really get yourself out of it, right, then you got to sell it.
Okay.
Sell it to the employees. You have to create succession.
Hmm.
So unless you just bought it and we're always hands off and you're just an owner of the business, but if you had any role in it at all, you have to figure out how to extricate yourself from it. And the surest extrication is sell it, grow it. Don't try to sell at the very top perfect moment. Sell on the way up. You got a future in mind. You're not yet at the future, but you have some evidence. You're tracking towards it. Now it's time to sell. So you have a future. You're working towards it. You show some progress. Start to get out of it. Sell part of it. Eventually sell all of it. And then if you want to, you still have energy left, start another business.
Yeah.
Why did I start coaching? I got old enough that I had enough experience across a range of industries. There was something about it I like working with other people and not being so hands-on myself. I really love that.
Yeah.
And like I have an impact on all these companies. I don't want to do that. But like maybe that's the next thing. Or maybe you got 2 or 3 companies left in you to go do, My son, he had about 3 companies with funding and that kind of thing before he was 25. And he was feeling like a failure. I'm like, because the companies, didn't hit and weren't successful. But I'm like, you raised money, you raised a team, you started a company, you did some things. It didn't work out. Like, you're 25. Give yourself a break, right?
Isn't that a bit of like the equivalent of, like our exposure to perfect bodies in magazines and TVs and all that 0.0000001 percentile of successes, that it makes us feel like a failure if I only made $100 million, if I only made 10 million, if I only did something meaningful and interesting.
The thing is, and it could be never enough. He like had that. Then he started dabbling just on something fun, after COVID. And we're actually on the front deck of our house. We're sitting with a friend and he's working on AI because he has a background in AI and he built an image generator so you could describe an image and that kind of thing. And it wasn't, as a company, the technology was good, but it wasn't going well as a company. But he knew another guy and he started talking to him. So he moved his technology over to another company and they started to build it up. And that company is called Midjourney and became known as the top thing. So Jack built versions 2 through 7 of Midjourney and as the
that little company,
AI
that nobody knows about, right?
Right. Like and now he's just jumped to a new company that's doing AI. So as an AI scientist for another new company called Cursor, or the service called Cursor, the company's called Anysphere, and now 2 multi-billion-dollar companies before you're 30, right? Yeah. So from feeling like a failure to leaning into what you love and like, that's really cool. It's surreal cool. And I'm really proud of him, like from the business and as an AI developer and having a global impact. But here's the thing that's most proud of, right? Is watching him as a father, watching him with his daughter, right? My granddaughter now, 2 years old, and seeing his tenderness, seeing his dedication, not losing it. Like those are massive success companies, both of them. And he's central to both of them. But he takes time for his daughter. And she's out sick today and he's home with her. He's put off some of his meetings. And he takes time to have date night and he comes over for Friday night dinner with the family. And so he's got time for some of these things in his life. Now he's very busy with those things, but there's a balance of that, right? And I'm so proud of that, like seeing him be tender and caring with his daughter as a father. That's I'm as proud of may more proud of that than of the business success, right?
Yeah. And you can hear that in your voice. You're choking up on both accounts. That's fine.
Yeah.
So I want to share a story with you, okay?
Mm.
And then
Mhm.
follow up a kind of a question that I think
Mm.
hopefully will will help us kind of wrap everything we discussed together. So many years ago, me and my partner were walking out of a very intense business meeting, very intense
Yes.
business meeting, and you're having one of those post meaning kind of debriefing. Okay, this and this. What about this? Da, da. And at least as I remember it, it wasn't an aggressive conversation, right? It was even like it was an okay meeting. It was an okay meeting, but what about this? What about this? And I'm going, oh, that could have gone better. This could have been fine. If this was
Mhm.
good. But I think next time we need to, focus on this and that. And my partner turns to me and with pain coming out. He says, like,
Mm.
what do you want
Mm.
from me? You want me to kill
Mm.
myself? Right?
Mm.
Okay, okay.
Mm.
And of course, in retrospect, I was much younger, but it was like this, like, I think a lot of the things you speak to, you were just like the person felt trapped, right?
Mhm.
But he just
Mhm.
can't do better, right? He just
Mhm.
cannot do better. So
Mhm.
my question for
Mhm.
that person and quite a few other entrepreneurs and business owners, but find themselves on that edge, right? On that edge, and they're aware of the edge, and they call
Mhm.
1-800 Bill help me, right? But
Mhm.
also like, and you have like a few minutes to tell them like the immediate next step that they should be take.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what is that one thing, or maybe it's 2 or 3 things, but like, what's those immediate step that you recommend anybody that's finding themselves on that edge to do?
Well, let me tell you just a really short story. Do you know the story of the blind man and the elephant?
Yes, yes,
Yeah. Right. So just to recap it, right? In this ancient story, blind men are led to see an elephant for the first time. But because they're blind, they put their hands on different parts of the elephant and they describe the elephant in very different ways. And then in different tellings of the story, they argue over their interpretations of the elephant and they come to blows and fight each other. Right. And so each of us sees the world in a unique way. So when I listen to you and I talk to someone, they describe their world to me and they see the world and it's like the only way to see things, right?
yeah,
And you think about that in politics, in conflicts in our region, in conflicts that you're dealing with right now. People see the world in their own way. True, not true, whatever. There's a million different ways of looking at things. And then their actions, each of our actions are perfectly matched to the way we see the world. So the actions that you take with regard to your fitness, your business, like whatever, are perfectly matched to the way that you see the world. And each of us sees a different world and our actions are different and we all don't see the same thing. And yet, from the blind man and the elephant, there are many possible ways of seeing it. So if you could change the way you see your world, your actions would change naturally. And then you'd have different outcomes. And it would be really useful to get that there's not like one perspective, but infinite perspectives on ways of approaching your business, your life, your fitness, your family, your money, like all those things. There's more than one way. And if I can get you to see it in new ways, you'll naturally start to take new actions, which will give you new performance outcomes, new results. And having you see things for yourself is more valuable than me just telling you what to do. A lot of times you tell me your situation, I can just tell you like, guy, just go do this. And sometimes you really want that, but it's far more powerful to help you see the world in a new way and then have you naturally take new actions that are your own invention than for me to be like a consultant and just tell you what to do, which you may or may
yeah.
not do, and it may or may not work for you.
So if I'm calling the Bill hotline, right? You're telling me again. Maybe I'm putting words in your mouth. So could it like, hey, Haggai, take a step back,
Yeah.
go find the other perspective.
No, so I might question what you're doing and how'd you come up with that and
Yeah.
where do you do that and how do you think other people handle that and how long you've been doing that and what are your competitors doing and have you considered this? And so I would challenge you to think about it in new ways. And within the conversation, I would probably have you see there's other ways of thinking about a thing, right? And that is one of the benefits of working across many industries and that kind of thing. I might say to you, well, okay, you're working as a whatever you're doing. And I might say, that isn't what they do in the hospitality industry, or that isn't what we do in technology, or that isn't what we do in property development or in construction or in manufacturing. Because I work with all these different industries, I might challenge your way of doing it. And then you might go, oh, interesting. And I might say, okay, what's the parallel? And that is the thread or the benefit of having had such a rich background, not only of clients, but personally in my life, right? To move from Hawaii to Israel, from Barcelona to Zurich, to live in these places, to speak the different languages. Like, I have an ability to see a bigger range than maybe some people do, to have all these different interests. So I can open you up a little bit, and then that will have you naturally go into it. Now, there are basic things like teaching people how to organize their people or their execution or things like that, that lots of coaches and frameworks do. But like expanding you rapidly to do things like that, that's a more unique thing. And then to do it while having a great life. So grow your business and still have a great life. That's a thing that maybe I do a little bit, offer that's a little bit more unique than some of the others would do. And it starts like it's not for everyone. Like, you have to be hungry for something more. You have to be hungry for a bigger life, a better life, a bigger business, a better business. You have to like, if you just want to kind of get out of the day to day, that's not my work, right? My work is when you want to do something much bigger.
So how about you give kind of the entrepreneur audience that might be listening to this, like, give me, like, what is the one sentence you want them to embed in their head?
Yeah. I want you to remember that you probably are working too hard and still feel stuck, and know that you don't have to do it alone. That there is a way to build a stronger team to scale with ease so you can grow your business and without sacrificing your life.
Amen. That's a noble goal. Bill, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a wrap. This Haggai's podcast episode ends here, but you don't. Now, is it crazy to think that you know somebody who'd love this episode? Share it with them, and they'll love you for it.